Looking at the two Form Studio books you shared last week was really helpful. Jeffrey Miller, Seen Here, stuck out to me, perhaps because his use of color felt similar to the explorations I've been conducting with my material studies. Sarah Bonnickson and I have also been talking this week about our thesis work, and she shared some insights that resonated. She pointed out that it's common for me to use juxtaposition as a technique in my work, and a beautiful, poignant juxtaposition that is currently happening is how I, as a designer, am handling the wood as a subject through photography, wood type, and collage, versus how my dad handles wood as someone who works in lumber. With all this in mind, this week I chose to work with existing material and focus on new ways of composing instead of shooting more photographs to work with. I was interested to try working in InDesign as you suggested, placing the images and moving them around in order to find my crop. Initially, I think because Jeffrey Miller's study working only with monochromatic yellow was still on my mind, I used only wood samples I had photographed. There was a contrast between stain and texture. Then, once I introduced a photograph with type, I became interested in shape and form. I imported other images and continued exploring, but nothing was providing that aha I was looking for. I decided to import more of the color into the palette, working essentially with close crops of the images I've been composing these past few weeks. I was having fun with this, but still nothing struck me. Then, on one particular image, I accidentally hit the shortcut for fit frame to content instead of fill frame proportionally, and this image happened. This accident, oddly enough, excited me. I knew this was lightning, but I needed to be specific about what was successful in its composition. This was one of the first times I had, accidentally or not, built on top of another image. It created a sense of depth within it, but also of displacement. Looking at this composition, the scale fell off, which was confusing to me as a viewer. Working this way reminded me of my site project with the branches and the IKEA cart, seen here. Those images were successful because there was a clear division between the materials in the image, which was suggestive of a broader tension. I continued building the collages, never quite getting to that lightning moment again, but developing some beautiful collages between the disparate materials, often focusing on a main color, and even beginning to work in some of the mill images in a subtle way. The second project I focused on this week is new, but in the same vein as the window project, the IKEA dresser, which, to be clear, I'm not giving up on the window project, but I have realized how much time and effort it takes to make a part for it. I wanted to quickly be able to explore this idea of upgrading that didn't involve so much detail, so I finally unpacked the IKEA dresser. I explained the idea to my dad, basically wanting to cut out all the imperfections in the dresser. We started with the top. You can see here that the piece is already composed of several different pieces of wood. I wanted to focus on removing the knots, so we went ahead and ripped the wood down into pieces, and then proceeded to cut them out. This first knot was exciting. I went to hold it and inspect it closer, and it actually fell apart in my hands. I didn't realize how fragile it would be. But now this idea of upgrading made more sense to me. The wood is weaker with these imperfections in it. Once the wood was cut, I considered the best way to show this concept. Was it to leave a gap where the wood was cut out to show that something was missing? Or did I try pushing them together so that gaps appeared at the end? I went with the former, using clamps and wood glue to secure it back together so it closely resembled its original form. You've often suggested this, but working on multiple projects simultaneously has made me wonder this week how I might incorporate aspects of this dresser process, the dissecting, removing, and reconfiguring, into the collage work. I was also curious to see what would happen if I tried to photograph the dresser and incorporate it into the collage. This last idea will have to wait until next week. But the one last area I wanted to explore this week was the scale and context of my work. I moved all the furniture away from one of my studio walls and printed them off to scale and began to hang them. It was nice to see them off screen, and even as a group. It allowed me to see the relationship that could potentially be between each of them. But still, they felt somewhat foreign. I couldn't help but ask myself, why were they on this wall? It was then I realized I'd cleared away everything in order to put them on a flat surface, uninterrupted. What would happen if I put them in a corner, for example? I decided to try it out. I just tested one print, one with a straight edge I could crease on, as if the individual photos themselves had been applied to that corner of the wall. I actually found this quite intriguing. It almost felt as if I was looking in on something inside the interior of the wall. I'm not sure where this particular exercise is going to lead me, but I'm curious to know what would happen with this idea on a larger scale, or if I combined the images digitally, as I did with the site project. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching.